So did Carter's popularity. He seemed to blame Americans themselves.
The erosion of our confidence in the future.
And it got worse. In Iran, scores of Americans were taken hostage. And then came a grueling re-election battle.
I'll bring new hope to America.
Jimmy Carter lost in a landslide. Through it all, Carter was sustained by his faith.
You were faced with some huge crises as president. Did you drop down to your knees and pray?
Often, yes, often. In fact, I prayed more per day, per hour, while I was president than any other 4 years in my life.
And his defeat marked the beginning of a remarkable post-presidency. He established the Carter Center, committed to advancing human rights and democracy. Carter built houses for the poor, and in 2002 was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. An extraordinary ex-president, proud of his years in the White House.
Kept the peace. We never went to war. We told the truth. Never lied to the American people, never misled the American people. So in general terms, I feel perfectly at ease with my term.
He brought discipline and devotion to everything he did, including his battle with cancer.
Everything's been a blessing for me, so I'm thankful and hopeful.
Despite the diagnosis, he continued building houses alongside Rosalind and marked their 75th wedding anniversary in 2021.
75 years. I can't predict.
Rosalind died 2 years later, marking the longest presidential marriage in history. In 2024, Carter marked another milestone, his 100th birthday, with an outpouring of gratitude for his life of service. He brought that devotion to everything he did for family and for country until the end.
President Biden issued public remarks yesterday on the life of President Jimmy Carter. Biden last saw Carter in November in 2023 at Rosalind Carter's funeral, where he said he took the time to tell Carter how much he loved him while also agreeing to deliver a eulogy at his funeral. Take a listen to some of what the president said yesterday.
Jimmy Carter lived a life measured not by words, but by his deeds. Just look at his life's work. He worked to eradicate disease, not just at home, but around the world. He forged peace, advanced civil rights, human rights, promoted free and fair elections around the world. He built housing for the homeless with his own hands. And his compassion and moral clarity lifted people up and changed lives and saved lives all over the globe. I'll always cherish having seen Jimmy and Rosalind Carter together. Theirs was a love affair of the ages. While we'll miss them both dearly, I do take some solace, and our kids were saying it, that they're united once again. They're going to remain forever in our hearts, but they're together again. Jimmy Carter stands as a model of what it means to live a life of meaning and purpose, a life of principle, faith, and humility. His life dedicated to others.
World leaders are also remembering former President Carter. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer highlighted Carter's leadership in the Camp David Accords and his post-presidency dedication to social justice. French President Emmanuel Macron and Egypt's President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi lauded Carter's work for peace, while Israel's President Isaac Herzog called the Camp David Treaty a cornerstone of Middle East stability. Japan's Prime Minister Ishiba Shiguru and Panama's President Jose Raul Mulino both credited Carter with strengthening international relations. And Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau remembered Carter as a lifelong humanitarian whose compassion inspired many. Joining us now is NBC News presidential historian Michael Beschloss. Michael, I was really struck by President Biden's on-camera comments yesterday, specifically because of the relationship that the two of them had, one of the many strong bonds that President Carter had in his lifelong service. What are your initial thoughts on President Carter's passing, and what sort of legacy does he leave behind as a former president?
Well, you know, sometimes you think of a president in terms of what they did as president, and other times you think of a president in terms of the kind of human being they were. Carter did some good things. He saw into the future, certainly things about the need for energy and the environment and human rights in the world. But the reason why his passing leaves such a mark today is the kind of person he was. Early in life, here is this peanut farmer down in Plains, Georgia, not a profile in courage on civil rights, runs for state office, serves a term as governor, and to the great surprise of many says, no more racial discrimination. In 1971, that was a pretty brave thing to do in Georgia if you wanted a political future. And as president, this was someone who was deeply religious, had an enormous character, and also showed us how to use the ex-presidency to do real good in the world.
Carter was the oldest living president ever. President Carter lived for more than 40 years after leaving the Oval Office. Right. How exactly was he able to redefine what is expected of ex-presidents?
Well, you know, he was defeated in 1980 for re-election by Ronald Reagan. He only got really a few dozen electoral votes. It was a terrible wipeout. Many other people would have been felled by this. And instead, Carter said, I think ex-presidents can do more than they normally do, which is play golf and give speeches and so on. And so he built the Carter Center to carry on his ideals. He went to war with things like guinea worm in Africa. He worked for human rights and for democracy around the world to make sure that elections were done fairly. And so this is someone that you can hold up to your children and say, in many ways, this is someone I want you to be like.
President Carter, I think there are many accomplishments that he had as president. You can talk about the national parks, you can talk about the Panama Canal relations and whatnot, but I really think in this day and age, thinking about what is happening in the Middle East right now and the deal and really the relationship that was struck between Egypt and Israel at Camp David by President Carter is a piece of his lasting legacy that will be showing up in force, if you will, in the days and weeks to come.
I totally agree, Simone. You know, here's classic Jimmy Carter. It's the fall of 1978. He's trying to bring some kind of order to the Middle East. There's an impasse between Begin of Israel, Sadat of Egypt. Here we see Sadat on the screen. And so Carter says, why don't you come to Camp David as long as it takes, and it took 13 days, to see if we can hammer out an agreement. Most presidents would have been told by their aides, don't think of doing that because all you'll do is you'll go in and you'll fail and it's going to make you look bad. Instead, Carter said, what is the presidency for if I can't use it for this?
Presidential historian Michael Beschloss, one of the best. We will see you again a little later on Morning Joe. Thank you.
Thank you, Simone.
Still ahead, the very latest on that deadly plane crash at a South Korean airport and what investigators are saying about the possible cause. Plus, President-elect Trump sides with Elon Musk in that dispute over H-1B visas that some of his MAGA allies oppose. Those stories and a check on sports and weather when we come right back.
Where'd you get those shoes? The ones that set the vibe for the whole night.
I'm Jesse's uncertainty, and I really thought house projects were my time to shine. One little, are you sure? He gets stuck before he even got started. But Jesse's changed. Because of Thumbtack. With their guides, he knows exactly what to do and who to hire. And his house is looking great. Where does that leave me?
Uncertainty doesn't live here. You do. Take care of your home with Thumbtack. Download the app today.
DSW's semi-annual sale is back, and it's bigger than ever. Save 50% on all clearance styles at your DSW store for a limited time. Plus, find even more great savings at DSW.com. Don't sleep on these seriously amazing deals. Score super low prices on sneakers, boots, and more for the entire family when you shop the DSW semi-annual sale. Save today at your DSW store or DSW.com. Exclusions apply.
Stay informed on the biggest issues of the day. MSNBC has you covered wherever you are. Watch, read, and listen For the in-depth coverage and analysis you need, stay with MSNBC.
Get ready for the unexpected.
It's just larger than life.
Only E brings you unedited moments before they're trending.
It's astonishing and humbling and thrilling.
It's live.
It's game-changing.
Live from E! Golden Globes. Red carpet coverage kicks off January 5th at 6, only on E!
MSNBC Premium gives you early access and ad-free listening to Rachel Maddow's chart-topping series, MSNBC Original Podcasts, exclusive bonus content, and all of your favorite MSNBC shows now ad-free. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts.
This morning, investigations are underway after a passenger plane crashed at a South Korean airport yesterday, leaving 179 people dead. Just 2 passengers from the plane survived. NBC News international correspondent Megan Fitzgerald has the latest, and we want to warn viewers, some of these images are disturbing.
Horrifying images from a South Korean airport, a passenger plane skidding across the runway after the landing gear appears to have failed before crashing into a wall and bursting into a massive fireball. Miraculously, first responders who rushed to the scene managed to pull 2 people out alive. But many of the families of the 179 others waited inside the Muon airport, just 180 miles south of Seoul, as the names of the deceased were announced. Screams of agony and devastation filling the airport, as South Korean officials offered an apology and vowing a swift and thorough investigation. So far, the flight radar for tracking the plane's journey from Bangkok, Thailand to South Korea didn't appear to show anything unusual. But officials say a bird strike may have started the deadly chain of events, which caused the pilot to issue a mayday warning.
When you see this video of the landing of this aircraft, what does that tell you?
This crash was tough to watch, and it's tough to piece together based on what we know so far. Bird strikes don't bring down airplanes like this, nor do they prevent landing gear from extending.
But it comes after a weekend of aviation incidents. A KLM flight heading to Amsterdam made an emergency landing in Norway after what the airline described as a loud noise. And an Air Canada flight in Halifax experienced a suspected landing gear issue as well, preventing it from reaching the terminal. And back in South Korea, so many unanswered questions surrounding one of their most deadly plane crashes in history.
That was